Okay, I brought the hard copy of this syllabus. This is the romantic poets. So this is very important. So try to understand, dear student, what is romantic age. So romantic age, please note it in your copy. Romantic age started from 1798 and it continues up to 1832. 1798 and it continues up to 1832. That period is called romantic period. So romantic period started from 1798 to 1832. So how the romantic period started, let us see. So both the great writers, William Wordsworth and Coleridge, S.T. Coleridge, they published a volume of book. That the book name is called Lyrical Ballad in the year 1798. From that period, the romantic period started. So lyrical ballad, you note it down, Lyrical, lyrical ballads, Ballads. So this book is published in the year 1798 and with the collaboration of William Wordsworth and S.T. Coleridge, and then after the romantic age started, right? And it continued up to 1832. So then I have already told you that when you enter into a age, when you enter into a period, try to understand what are the features of that period. Features means what are the characteristics of this romantic age. So particularly in this romantic age, there were great poets. There are great poets. The poetry is extremely advanced and the poetry has reached in a mature stage in this period. So what are the qualities of this period? What are the chief characteristics of this period? So romantic age started from 1798 to 1832. Once again I told, who are the exponent poets? Who are the great poets? So this period divided into two parts, first generation and second generation. First generation poets and second generation poets. In the first generation poets, who were the first generation poets? William Wordsworth, S.T. Coleridge, and Southey. Who are the second generation poets? The second generation poets are John Keats, P.B. Shelley, and Lord Byron. So 3 and 3. First generation means first part of the period. William Wordsworth, S.T. Coleridge, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, and Robert Southey. They are the first generation romantic poets. So in the second generation means second half of the romantic period. 3 great poets came. One is John Keats, P.B. Shelley, Percy B.C. Shelley, and Lord Byron. So these are the 3 poets first generation, 3 poets in the second generation. So this has started with the publication of lyrical ballads. So who published lyrical ballads? William Wordsworth and S.T. Coleridge. In which year? 1798. So after this publication, the romantic age started. So now the question is, what are the features, what are the characteristics of romantic age? So I have given first the romantic revival. So now you can check my notes in the yesterday evening I sent you. First, there is the romantic revival. Did you understand? I have sent you a PDF to you.
Yes,
The
sir.
romantic revival first PDF.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Could you please open it?
Yes, sir. It's a revolt against the classical school, and other points are there.
First one. Okay, you open that one. The romantic revival. So the revolt against Yes, sir, right. From the so the question will come: what are the most important features of the Romantic age? Who are the great poets of the Romantic age? What are the characteristics of the Romantic age? And what? How do you define Romantic age? So, definition I have given in the second video. So now you come to the first one. I told you that the Romantic age started from 1798 with the publication of lyrical ballads by the so with the authors William Wordsworth and S.T. Coleridge. Then now you come to the points. The Romantic revival. Romantic first went the revolt against the classical school. Yesterday we discussed about the classical movement, neoclassical movement. I have told you the rules, what are the features of the classical period. Classical period is based on rules and regulations. They write poetry on urban life, everything we have discussed. But in this period is a revolt against classical. Revolt means they protest the classical age. And how do they write? John Dryden, Pope, they write the poetry. These poets criticize to them, revolt. They protest to the classical writers. That is the meaning of the revolt against the classical writers. And these poets, William Wordsworth, S.T. Coleridge, John Keats, P.B. Shelley, Robert Southey, and Lord Byron, they protest. The second point is the new creed and the old creed. So now you come to the second point. So dear students, most of the time you are sending the messages, please share with your friends. And if you repeatedly disturb to me, I cannot teach you because most of the time I am reading the textual message and I distract my mind. So some of the students telling that this is my first class. Some of the students I join first class. So you join yourself and you attend your class. And about the materials and extra, you circulate among your friends. And if during this 1 hour class, if you interfere with my teaching period, then you distract my mind. My thought will change. Right. So please don't interfere during the time of teaching. So the second point is the new creed and the old creed. So what is this? Romanticism, the name given to the new tendency, and Walter Fetter that described the addition of curiosity of the desire and beauty. Particularly in this period, we focus on the beauty, desire and the beauty. So that is the new creed and the old tradition and the new pattern. So now you come to the third point, the age of reason. You know that in the previous time, so neoclassical time, only the writers describe about the reason. They describe about the urban life. They describe about philosophy of life. But here, the age of reason was not as is sometimes associated with age of acceptance and lack of curiosity. It was also the age of inquiry. It is the age of inquiry as is shown by the achievement of science and philosophy. But the Romantics had a fervor and vitality, a free onward impulse that their predecessors had not known or had restrained. The river of English poetry, which had flowed so serenely between the orders of banks of the classical tradition, now began the break additive. So when a romantic poet describes the river, they describe the beauty of the river, they describe the philosophy of that river, the significance of the river. But the classical poets are always based on only reason. But the romantic poets based on beauty, reason, as well as philosophy. Now you come to the fourth point, continental influence. So what is the continental influence? Now you come to this point, the teaching of Rousseau, the great philosopher, and the principles of the French Revolution helped to form and direct the ideas of romantics and to make them widely accepted in England. Rousseau preached to return to nature. So when there is a French Revolution, Industrial Revolution, what happens? The people feel that we should take care of nature. That is why William Wordsworth told that nature is our teacher. So William Wordsworth described the poetry in my first class. I told you that poetry is the spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings and which is recollected in tranquility. That I have told. So William Wordsworth, all the romantic poets, they based on nature. Nature is the teacher. Without nature, they cannot write the poetry. So they loved the nature. Nature is the most important part of romantic age for romantic poets. So that is the most influence. This point is you will take care of. Now you come to the next page, characteristics of the new school. Who were the new schools? The romantic poets were the new school poets. Because romantic age started from 1798 to 1832. Prior to the romantic age, there are certain poets who came. The one renowned poet, that is William Blake. He has written a book, The Songs of Innocence and the Songs of Experience. So he is also famous poet. So he is called pre-romantic poet. Pre means before romantic age. Before romantic age he came. And after the pre-romantic period, William Wordsworth, S.T. Coleridge, Robert Southey, John Keats, P.B. Shelley, and Lord Byron came. So what are the characteristics of the new school? These characteristics you have to remember. Please, first characteristic, a reaction to the against the rules and custom. So before them, all the poets based on only rules and regulations, rules, customs and tradition. For example, John Dryden, Alexander Pope. They wrote poetry on custom, tradition, and the rules and the regulations. But these poets always opposed to them, not custom tradition. They write the poetry in a spontaneous manner, in a freestyle of manner. So that is why there is in the words of Victor Hugo, Romanticism is the liberation in literature. Liberalism in literature. Victor Hugo, the great critic, told that Romanticism is liberalism in literature. That is why he told. So there is no constant rules to write this. So now you come to the second point. In the second point, the Romantic poets focused on return to nature and the simple life. They are the strong believer of nature. They say nature is our teacher. Whatever you have learned, we have learned from nature. William Wordsworth was to the cuckoo bird, wrote a poem to the cuckoo. William Wordsworth saw a solitary girl, lonely girl, who was cutting the grains. He wrote a poem, A Solitary Reaper. So like this, William Wordsworth wrote a poem, The Tablestone. So all the poems are based on nature. They see nature is a teacher. They observe to the nature, mountain, fountain, sky, jungle, forest, or you say river, stream, anything, birds, animals, any part of nature, they observe to the nature and they started writing poetry. Nature is their soul. Nature, without nature, they cannot move. So this is the most important characteristic of the Romantic age. Romantic is the strong believer of nature and the simple life. They do not believe on the urban life, country life, complex life. They believe in extremely simple life. So this is like Rousseau, some of the leaders of the Romantics commended the simple, natural country life of which many poets had written before them. So most of the time, they were appreciated for their simple life, natural life, and the country, rural life. So this is all about the return to nature and the simple life. Then you come to variety and individuality. The third characteristic is variety, but different, and individuality. So Romanticism had another aspect which we associate with the work of other poets, such as Shelley, Keats, Byron. It favored subjectivity and emotionalism. Subjectivity, personal feelings. Emotionalism, you become emotion, sentimental, to then you can write the poetry. There are two characters, emotionalism and sentimentalism. Right. Subjectivity means personal feeling. Impulse, forceful, and color rather than line. And the free play of imagination over a limitless variety of subjects. So their mind is free to think anything else. So imagination is one of the most important characteristics of the Romantic poets. Romantic poets are very imaginary poets. Fantasy, they live in the fantasy, right? And then write the poetry. So this point is variety and individuality. Now you come to the next. The return of the lyric. What is the lyric? Lyric is a very short poem or short song which is sung, S-U-N-G, by a musical instrument, lyre. Lyre is a musical instrument which the songs which are sung, the songs which are sung, S-U-N-G, first song is S-O-N-G-S, the songs which are sung by the musical instrument lyre. Lyre is a musical instrument, just like in we say harmonium, tabla, or you say guitar, like this. Lyre is a musical instrument, L-Y-R-E. So any poem which is sung with a lyre, musical instrument lyre, so that is called lyrical poem. So all lyrical poems are giving us very musical note. So the romantic poets gives us beautiful music. So the free expression of feelings demanded a lyrical mode of expression. Poetry once more became musical, non-intellectual, sensuous, and impassioned. Here, the poetry is musical. So, if you read the romantic poetry, then you get maximum music. Non-intellectual and sensuous feeling that gives you feelings, touch, feel, smell, like this, sensuous. All we have the sense organs that give sensuous and impulsion, like this. So generally, in a general sense, people say a romantic mind, a romantic mood means love. So love for what? Love for nature, love for human beings, love for life, love for simplicity, like this. But you should not take it otherwise. Romantic mood means not love for physical aspiration, love for simplicity, love for real life, love for nature, love for feelings, musicality, like this. So now your next point, interest in the Middle Ages. So what happens in the Middle Ages? Romantic poets inspired by the Middle Ages. So now the romantics were fascinated means attracted by medieval life and legends. So the art and culture in the Middle Ages, as well as their primitive and virile morality, made appeal to feeling of picturesque is so strong in all the writers, especially in Scott and John Keats. So they were inspired with the medieval spirit. Medieval spirit, that is, we find there is supernatural elements we can find there. So these are the basic characteristics of the romantic age. Then after I have given a second PDF to you. Could you please open that second PDF? So now please open it. Second PDF. In that PDF I have given the definitions of the romanticism. Its definition, its nature, and chief characteristics in the second PDF. Literary background. So heading is literary background, and there you find romanticism. Romanticism defined, how the romanticism is defined, its definitions, its nature, its characteristics. I hope that all of you are opened with the second PDF. Just raise your hand, then I can understand.
Yes, sir, opened it.
Okay. So now you please check it. Romanticism defined. The term romanticism has been variously defined by various writers. William Pater, so Walt Pater, for example, calls it the addition of strangeness to beauty, some writer. And Watts Dunton defines it, renounce of wonder. Then another critic, Goethe, the German poet critic, contrasts romanticism. German critic contrasts romanticism with classicism and says romanticism is a disease, classicism is health. So like this, many critics define the term romanticism in different manner. Some critics define it is the liberalism in literature. So like this, most of the critics have defined romanticism in different manner. You read it at your home. Then I have given its chief characteristics. We have already discussed. Still then, there are some points. Let me introduce this point. The chief characteristics of romanticism are first subjectivity. So what is subjectivity and what is objectivity? Subjectivity means personal or inner feeling. Objectivity means perception of the outer world. Your personal feelings, personal experience, inner feeling, that is subjectivity. All the romantic poets are subjectivity. So that point you will read. Second point is spontaneity. Spontaneous means automatically. If you are in imaginary world, you are an emotional world, sensuous world, then the thought, feelings will come automatically. Romantic poets are spontaneous poets. So third point is love of the supernatural. I have already told you that romantic poets are influenced by the Middle Ages, and in the Middle Ages period, there is the question of a ghost, witchcraft, or you say the supernatural elements in the ancient time. And the romantic poets just reminds to medieval period. That is why they are also they believe in supernatural. Then melancholy. Melancholy means sorrowful. Just I told that there is a poem William Wordsworth has written. That poem name title is a solitary reaper. Solitary reaper means lonely. Solitary means lonely. Reaper man cutter. There is a girl who was cutting the crops alone, and during the cutting the crops, she was singing a melancholy song, very sorrowful song. So, so in his poetry, William Wordsworth sometimes introduce melancholy, sorrow. Then poet wants to know why the girl is singing a sorrowful song. So one example I gave. Then next one is the love of nature. I have already told you that all the romantic poets are the strong believer of the nature. They write on mountain, fountain, sky, river, or environment, cuckoo, any bird, animals. They write about the nature, beauty of the nature. The next one is emphasis on the inherent dignity and nobility of man. So the romantic poets are writing very common life, simple life. So you know that those people are not complex. Obviously, they will believe in the dignity. They believe in the nobility of the human beings because they are not complex at all. So they write about this. So someone has raised the, do you have an issue? That's why you have raised the hands. Do you have any question? No, by
No, sir.
mistake it is.
By mistake, sir.
Okay, sure. Then romanticism is a revolt against artificiality. It stands simplicity and then the treatment. Then so many points are there. In this way, English romanticism, last line, you just check. English romanticism is thus both a revolt and a revival. Revolt against the classicism. A revival means a new form of literature. It is a revolt against the 18th century tradition and conventions. It is a revival of the ancient meter and ancient masters of poetry. So this is all about romantic age and the features of the romantic age that we discuss. Now you come to your syllabus. What are the poems that is included in your syllabus? So then, so you check it. Romantic poets, William Blake, Wordsworth and Coleridge. I have already told you that William Blake is a pre-romantic poet. Our major concern is William Wordsworth and Coleridge. So, and William Blake. So, William Blake is a pre-romantic poet. So now you come to, now you open my notes, block 6. Now you open the block 6. I will make you acquainted with the block 6. So please open it. Then after you tell me that, sir, we have opened it and I will carry on.
Open, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
So
open.
now you come to first romantic poetry. I have already explained. One quotation is given. So lyrical ballad you can check. So in the second para, in the early 19th century England, the poet William Wordsworth defined his and Samuel Taylor Coleridge's innovative poetry in the preface of lyrical ballads. They combined, published this book, Lyrical Ballad, in the year 1798. That is the era, that is the time romantic age started. So one quotation is given. Then the lyrical ballad, some lines are written. You can read it yourself. You can understand. Then characteristics of English romantic poetry, I have also given. Bullet marks are given. Only I will touch the bullet marks. The sublime, reaction against neoclassicism, imagination, nature poetry, melancholy, medievalism, Hellenism, supernaturalism, subjectivity. So already these points we have discussed very carefully. No need, you just read it yourself. Then you come to the pre-romantic poets. So there are so many pre-romantic poets, but William Blake is the most important pre-romantic poets. Who are the other poets? James Thomson, Mark Akinside, Joseph Wharton, William Collins, Thomas Gray, William Cuffer, Robert Fons, William Blake. So William Blake is the most important writer of this pre-Romantic period. Then Romantic period. Romantic period divided in two parts: first generation poets and the second generation poets. First generation romantic generation means first part of the Romantic period. Who came? First part of the Romantic period, the poet came: William Wordsworth, Samuel Coleridge, Samuel Taylor Coleridge. You can write Taylor, Taylor, full name, but in short we say St. Coleridge. It is also understood. And Robert Southey. These are the first generation English poets. Then you come to the second generation Romantic poets: John Keats. This is John Keats, P.B. Shelley, Percy B.C. Shelley, and Lord Byron. I have written Keats, Shelley, Byron. It is understood, but they are very popular poets. If you say Keats, they people can understand. Shelley understand, like this. So now you come to William Blake. William Blake is a pre-Romantic poet. So he has written a book, Songs of Innocence and Songs of Experience. That is a collection of poems. In that collection of poems, just to check, just to go to a table that you say, just some, you just go ahead, then you can find what are the poems included in this. The poems are listed below. There are so many poems are there in Songs of Experience and Songs of Innocence. In what are the poems, you check: The Shepherd, The Echoing Green, The Lamb, The Little Black Boy, The Blossom, The Chimney Sweeper, The Little Boy Lost, The Little Boy Found, Laughing Song, A Cradle Song, The Divine Image, Holy Thursday, Night, Spring, Nurse Song, Infant Joy, A Dream, On Another Sorrow. These are the poems, but all the poems are not included in syllabus. Only 3 poems are here. Out of this, only 3 poems are there. What are the 3 poems? One is The Lamp, second one is The Chimney Sweeper, and third one is The Divine Image. These are the 3 poems out of this list. Then after, in the Songs of Experience, these are the poems included. What are the poems? Introduction, Art's Answer, The Clod and the Pebble, Holy Thursday, The Little Girl Lost, The Little Girl Found, The Chimney Sweeper, Nurse Song, The Sick Rose, The Fly, The Angel, The Tiger, like this. So many poems are there. Out of this, you only The Sick Rose, London, and The Tiger are included. So in the syllabus, only 6 poems of William Blake are given. So I have discussed some poems here. Lamb poem. So Lamb, this is a poem, The Lamb. Just to check, the poem I have given, the textual poem given 1, 2 stanza. I think all of you get this poem. Please
Yes,
make me
sir.
sure. Okay. So in this poem, I have given, after the poem, I have given the description of the poem. So who is the lamb? Have you seen the lamb? The lamb is a part of a Songs of Innocence. Songs of Innocence named the collection of books. In that book, the lamb is a poem. In it, Blake speaks directly to a lamb. Have you seen a lamb? Lamb is a small creature, very innocent creature that you have seen. And the baby of the sheep, right? So playing on the animal representative of the Lord Jesus Christ. This lamb is compared with the Lord Jesus Christ. The first stanza focuses on the question of who created this animal, and the second stanza contains the answer. First stanza question is who created this lamb, and in the second stanza the answer is also given. So Blake compares the lamb to Jesus Christ, the Lamb of God. So lamb, the small creature, is compared with Jesus Christ. The Lamb is a didactic poem, very philosophical poem. Didactic means philosophical poem. In this poem, the poet pays a tribute. Tribute means respect, honor to Lord Christ, who was innocent and pure like a child, and meek and mild like a lamb. So you know that the child life is very innocent and simplicity. Similarly, the God's Jesus Christ life is very simple and honest and simplicity. The lamb is compared with God. The little child asked the lamb if he knows who has created it and who has blessed it with life and with the capacity to feed by the stream and over the meadow. Who has created? The child asks him if the lamb knows who has given it bright and soft wool, who has given it the soft wool to his body, which serves as its clothing. Who has given it a tender voice, tender and soft voice? Who has given you soft voice? That fills the valley with joy. When you are grazing nearby, then you are making a sound and your voice is very sweet. Who created this? So this is the question that raised in the first stanza. In the first stanza of 10 lines, William Blake's poem, The Lamb, the child who is supposed to be speaking to the lamb gives a brief description of the little lamb animal as he sees it. So the lamb has been blessed with life, with the capacity to feed by the stream and over the meadow. It has been endowed means bestowed, given with bright and soft wool, which serves as its clothing. It has a tender voice that fills the valley with joy. Same description is there. The readers here are provided with a true portrait. Portrait means description, picture of a lamb. And the child of innocence repeatedly asks the lamb as to who made him. So this is the description is going on. So now you can come to the last line. That is the line is given the themes. Or before that, it is Jesus Christ who calls himself a lamb. Jesus the lamb is meek, very submissive and mild and soft-natured, and he became a child for the sake of mankind. The narrator is a child, he is the lamb, and they both are called by Jesus' name. The lamb identifies with Jesus Christ to form a trinity of child, lamb, and redeemer. Redeemer here means Jesus. So what is the theme of this poem? The theme of the poem is God and creation, or nature. Meadows, grassland, water, all these are part of nature. Childhood stands for the symbol of innocence and simplicity. Just like the lamb. Lamb is the stage of childhood of the animal, and that indicates that it is a very simple and innocent. Whenever you find a small boy or girl or a baby is roaming here and there nearby your houses, nearby your colony or your area, what do you feel? You show your sympathy to the baby because they are very innocent and they are very simple. They do not know the complexity of life. So this indicates this is a didactic poem, a religious poem, and that you have to read the text and how the lamb is compared with Jesus Christ. You go through it very carefully. So now I will discuss another poem, that is the Sikh Rose. This poem is a very small and very powerful poem. So second poem. So I will go through this second poem, the Sikh Rose. Okay. So have you seen a rose? Yes. So rose is red in color. When the word rose comes to mind, what do you think of? So when the flower rose comes to mind, it comes to a mind that rose stands for love. Rose is a symbol of love. So the title is given Sikh Rose. When the rose is sick here, how a flower is sick? How a flower is sick? When the flower is going to die, the flower is sick, we can say. From the title, we can understand that the Sikh Rose means the flower is dead here. How the flower is dead? How? Whom we love so much. So human beings love to the flower so much. How it is possible? So now let me read this poem because it is a very small poem. That's why I will read it. Rose, thou art sick. Rose, thou means you. Art means art. Rose, you are sick. I will explain you. First, let me read the poem. The invisible orm. Invisible means not visible. Orm means very small creature you have seen that flies in the night in the howling storm. Howling means the great sound of the storm. Has found out thy bed. Thy means your bed. Of crimson joy. Crimson is the name of the color, joy. And his dark secret love does thy means your life destroy. So what happens? So this poem has a double meaning. So one is the outer meaning, another is the inner meaning. What is the outer meaning? So there is a rose flower, and that night there is a heavy storm came, and during this heavy storm, some of the small insects, they flew and tossed to the flower. This is the flower plant. This is the flower. Due to the storm, some of the ore came to this flower. And what did they do? They wanted to take rest in the rose flower. They wanted to take rest in the rose flower. And what is the tendency of the insect? The tendency of the insect to bite to the flowers. And when the insect will bite to the flowers will automatically die. And the flowers will fall into the ground. So what is the ground? That is the bed of the roses, because the bed of the worms, because the worms stay in the sand. That is the outer meaning of the poem. That is the outward meaning. What is the inner meaning? Let us see. The rose is sick. Now you come to my explanation that is given. The rose is sick, and the poem implies that love is sick as well. So here, rose is flower, rose stands for love. Right? So if you think about love, if you fall in love with a person, particularly if you fall with a person, and for your pleasure, for your satisfaction, you take away everything from her. And after that, so when your beloved is dead, lost her chastity, lost her virginity, then you are away from him. That means indirectly you are killing to her. Clear? Just like the rose flower. So here the worm is compared with the lover, and the rose is compared with the beloved. The worm killed to the rose means the man takes away everything from the woman. Means the virginity, the chastity, the pleasure, everything he has taken, for which the woman is dead. So now you see, the rose is sick, and the poem implies that love is sick. Yet the rose is unaware of its sickness, of course. An actual rose could not know anything about its own condition. And so the emphasis falls on the allegorical suggestion, comparison, that it is love that does not recognize its own ailing state. When someone falls in love, she doesn't know what is the consequence of the love. If that goes in a parallel very significantly, then they say love is very good. If they're facing any difficulties, they say it is very bad. So at that time they say, my love is sick. The Sick Rose by William Blake describes the loss of a woman's virginity through the metaphor of a rose and invisible womb. This line is very highlighted. Woman's virginity, the chastity, the virginity is taken away by the lover, and for which she is dead. She is dead. Similarly, the rose, everything is taken away by the worm. So it is a metaphorical poem. Metaphorical means two dissimilar things are compared. Worm is compared with the lover, rose is compared with the beloved woman. So the poem begins with the speaker telling the rose that she is sick. The sickness is caused by the invisible worm. Invisible, not visible. The flower cannot see the worm. The phallic shape from worms come to the rose at night in the middle of the howling storm. There is a real sense of danger and death in these lines that only builds as poem progress. And Blake makes us enjoyment when one idea comes to the next idea. So like this, it goes on, and how a person, how a lover destroyed to the woman's virginity, that is described. Now you come to images and symbol. What are there are two images are here. The symbols within the Sick Rose are very important. Other the ways of Blake describes these symbols. The most prominent symbol is the rose itself. So without much consideration, a reader should realize that the rose is there to represent nature and fragility, but also the deeper, more important meaning. The rose is also stands for symbol for female purity. This is most important. Rose stands for female purity, chastity, and this is being taken away. This is being taken away by the lover man. So when the man makes love with a woman and he speaks very sweet words, short words, to become very close and affinity with the woman or to become the beloved. When he fulfills his desires, he remains away from her. That means the woman or the female is dead. The purity and the virginity, the chastity is dead. So as the rose is dead by the worm, right? And what is the storm? Star means the difficulties that comes in the life of the beloved. When the difficulties came, that is called jhada. So how the jhada comes, how the storm comes, when the beloved understand everything has taken away by the lover. Why? Because I believed him, because I trusted him, because of my foolishness, because of my trust. He has lost my trust. That is. So the worms take the rose's virginity. Therefore, the running of life. Then again, now you see, I have explained stanza 1. I have explained, you will read it at home. Stanza 2, I have explained, you have to read repeatedly also. Stanza 1, stanza 2, and the theme in the sick rose I have given. So what is the main theme? Just you check. The main themes that appear in the sick rose are love, innocence, selfishness, and destruction. Who is selfish? The lover is selfish. Who destroys? The lover destroys. And who is innocence? The beloved in innocence. And why she is innocent? Because she falls in love, false love. She is in false love. That is why. So now you see symbolism in the poem Rose, Worm, and this part you will discuss. Now you come to William Wordsworth. William Wordsworth, here in your syllabus there is a book, The Prelude. Book 1 only you have to discuss, Prelude. So now you come to the Prelude. The Prelude, the title is The Prelude or Growth of a Poet's Mind. So in this Prelude book, the poet William Wordsworth has described growth of a poet's mind. This is an autobiographical poem. Means he writes about his own life in this poem. So this poem, the Prelude is divided into 14 books. Now you check. So go ahead, some of the portions, then you can see. It is published shortly after the death, Wordsworth's death in 1850. So there are 14 books. What is the book? First book, Introduction, Childhood and School Time. This is in your syllabus. The Prelude, book 1. This is you have to prepare for this only. Introduction, Childhood and School Time. You have to read about how William Wordsworth's childhood was and what was the school time of his. But I have given it because later on you will may do more portions. That is why I have given the. So in the second chapter, school time continued. Third chapter, residence at Cambridge. Fourth chapter, summer vacation. Fifth chapter, books. Sixth chapter, Cambridge and Alps. Seventh chapter, residence in London. Eighth chapter, retrospect love of nature. Ninth chapter, residence in France. 10th chapter, residence in France. 11th chapter, residence in France concluded. Then 12th chapter, imagination and taste, how impaired and restored. 13th chapter, imagination and taste, and conclusion. So here there is the description just below. See, the Prelude book 1 description is given, summary is given, analysis is given. You just go through it. Okay. So now you come to S.T. Coleridge, S.T. Samuel Taylor Coleridge. So there are two poems are there. One is Kubla Khan and the Dejection. So first I have given the poem Kubla Khan, the textual text I have given. This is a long poem. So better you see, then after I have given the answer, Kubla Khan, S.T. Coleridge. So this answer you have to write in the exam, you will get full marks. This answer I have written myself. And Kubla Khan, this is a very critical analysis of the poem. By any means, you write this answer, you will get full marks. Please mark it, very, very important. Very, very important. Kubla Khan poem, when I was a student of English honors, this poem was there. When I was a student of English MA, this was in my syllabus also. But now I became a teacher. I am also teaching the same poem, Kubla Khan by S.T. Coleridge. This poem is very important. I mark this note. I have given this note means you have to write this answer. This answer. So what is Kubla Khan in this poem? Let me tell you. So Kubla Khan here is the name of a king. So there was a place, city that is called Xanadu. Xanadu. So Xanadu is the name of the place. So the poem describes Kubla Khan as a powerful ruler. in this poem, Kublai Khan is a powerful leader who has great command. And his authoritativeness lies in the fact that he can order for a pleasure dome for built or merely one order. This pleasure dome is no less than a miracle as it comprises caves of ice. So Kublai Khan is the king. In his kingdom, Xanadu, he wanted to make a pleasure dome, D-O-M-E. That is why, but this must be a miracle because it comprises caves of ice. That place is caves of ice. So Kublai Khan, the poet describes that place. So in the first stanza begins with the poet's imagination of Kublai Khan in the city of Xanadu. Please note it down. The city name is Xanadu, X-A-N-A-D-U. That is the first stanza. He sees there while commanding from his lavish place to. So he commanded. Who commanded? Now Kublai Khan commanded. So there is a river. The river name is Alf, A-L-P-H. And the river is flowing through the enormous chambers and mixing into the sea. So there is the description of the Alf River, Xanadu city in the first stanza. So in the second stanza, that takes us through a deeper imagination. There's a divine creativity. The sloping hill, green plants, as well as the mosses covering that place. How the green plants, as well as sloping hills, are described in that place is described in the second stanza. Then he compares it to the wild natural love of women crying the memory of demoniac love, means ghostly love. This rift has endless commotion. If the earth is breathing furiously through it, then moreover, there is also a holy river which flows through the woods as well as the valley. There is a holy river, that river name is Alf River, that flows through the valley in a zigzag manner, and in tunnel like this, suppose snake movement, not in the straight manner, zigzag manner, that river flows. Thus it results in the artifacts of Kublai Khan can hear the voices of his deceased ancestors foretelling about the future. Ancestors mean fathers, those are dead. And their forefathers are appeared there. So this is a supernatural poem. Ghosts, witches, they appear. Further, the poem describes the sad of luxurious places of the dome. So the poet also describes it a miracle because of the sunny location and the ice caves coexist. The place is sunny, as well as the place is full of ice. So what is this? This is a miracle. You know, when the sun appears, ice disappears, but both coexist. So it is a miracle that poet describes. In the last stanza tells us about the dream of the poet. This is a damsel like this. So in the conclusion, Kublai Khan sums it through the beautiful land of Xanadu. Through its vivid description, it explores the theme of man along the nature. It is a highly romantic poem focusing on humans and natural forces beautifully. So this is the description how the poet S.T. Coleridge described the Kublai Khan's area, Xanadu, the city Xanadu and the location. This poem is loaded with nature, supernatural elements, beautification, and etc. So in a nutshell, I can say that I have very precisely, I have written this poem. Please note it down. This note is my own notes I have prepared. And you feel that this is a one-page note. If you write in your answer copy when in the exam, it will lead to 4 pages, 3 to 4 pages in your own handwriting. But in a type method, it looks like this. But we need this type of answer. We expect short type of answers from the students to give the highest score. If you write in this type of answer, don't write bushy answers. Bushy answers meaning you have to study here and there, just like ST College, just like the summary, just like the class 7 students. No, we are reading. We are expecting for the critical interpretation of the poem, the summary of the poem, theme of the poem, style of the poem, text of the poem, about the background of the poet. So you read this poem, then you can understand how precisely, very briefly, I have written this poem. We analyze this poem. So definitely, when you are writing an answer of a poem, you have to quote minimum 2 to 3 lines. I have already told you that. If you quote 2 lines, just you check in the last 2 lines, a damsel with a disclaimer in a vision once I saw. In my note, I have given a quotation. Why I have given a quotation? It symbolizes that the student has gone through the text very carefully. You have read the text. You have to remember. Either you remember any means, you have to quote some lines in your answer. Then the examiner can understand the student has evaluated the poem, interpreted the poem very carefully and very critically. We expect such type of answers. All right. So nowadays, the students are very much busy or engaged. They are not providing much more time. I know, I understand, but still then you have to read it yourself. Then in the last poem, there is a dejection poem, unword. That poem I have given, that is a long poem that you see that it has 7 sections, 8 section, it has 8 sections. Then ode means an addressing poem. Remember, what do you mean by an ode? O-D-E. Ode means an addressing poem. So this poem, summary, analysis, that are comments I have given, that you go through this poem. You study it yourself and then you try to understand. The 8 parts, part 1 to part 8 I have given. So now one more request to you, please take the screenshot of this attendance once again and share it to me because the class is going to over. The regional center has advised me, sir, please take the attendance at the beginning of the class, at the end of the class. So please take one. And someone has raised their hands. If you have any query, you can ask me. I'm waiting for you. I'm waiting for your response, for your feedback, for your questions, any comments. Okay, you can give. If you have any query, you can ask me without hesitation. Yes.
Kubla Khan is a visionary poem, I think.
Huh.
That means he wrote the poem under the influence of opium.
Oh, opium addicted. He is a great opium addicted poet. S.T. Coleridge is an opium addicted poem. You are right. Right. He's a supernatural poet, nature poets, visionary poets, has a great sense of vision. Right. Most of the time he is opium addicted. Right. You are correct.
That's why he thought the supernatural elements in his
Yeah,
poem.
yes. He is inspired by the supernatural elements, medieval thoughts. Most of the time he takes the opium. Right. You are correct. Then, any comments, any suggestion, any questions? You are welcome. Because it is an online class, I'm not able to see you. Just I'm interacting with you in words, in languages. If it is an offline class, we could have interact face to face. But online class, it is your interest, your curiosity to ask me or to share with me. If you don't have, please take the screenshot of the attendance sheet and share me, and I will wind up the class. Okay, thanks. Just join in the group and they are interacting with a group of people. Okay. So now you come to, so in the last class, we discussed with you the romantic poets. I told you that romantic is started from 1798 to 1832. That is the romantic period. And William Wordsworth, Coleridge, Robert Southey, John Keats, P.B. Shelley, and Lord Byron. So 3 poets are first generation poets, William Wordsworth, S.T. Coleridge, and Robert Southey. We had discussed in the last class. So in today's class, we have to come to the second generation romantic poets. So second generation romantic poets, there are 3 great poets. One is Shelley, P.B. Shelley. Second one is John Keats, and then Lord Byron, but Lord Byron is not in your syllabus. So now, dear students, now you open your Shelley, characteristics of Shelley's poetry. Now you open characteristics of Shelley's poetry. I have given a PDF to you yesterday, right? So please open it and we'll discuss, because we have to discuss 2 blocks today. So I will make you facilitate. That's why I have provided you the material so that it will be easy to go forward. So, okay. Shelley as a lyric poet, chief characteristics of his poetry, P.B. Shelley. So, first one, the characteristics of his lyricism, Shelley's genius was essentially a lyrical poet. I told you that. What is a lyrical poem? The poems which are sung with the musical instrument lyre, Lyre. So this is about all, most of his poems are being sung with the musical instrument lyre. That is why his poems are lyricism. So this point you will read yourself. Now you come to second point, that is his music. Shelley is one of the most musical of English poets. He was a master of the art of musical suggestion. So he selects musical words whose sound conveys the sense. So in his poetry, you can find most of the musical words there. From that word, you can predict the meaning of the text. So come to the third point. I will just make you acquaint with the points. Then you study yourself carefully at your home. So third point is his vagueness and unsubstantiality. So vagueness means not clear. Unsubstantiality. Shelley is the most ethereal of poets. He soars aloft on mighty wings in his poetry. He does not hide reality. He cannot hide the reality from the objects of this material world. Then he is constantly flying on the wings of the imagination into the world of abstraction, from the imagination to abstraction. So the creatures of his imagination are more real to him than reality itself. So his poetry is rich with thick coming fancies. His fondness for unsubtractions, the habits of soaring into thoughts, wilderness, imparts to his poetry a touch of the vagueness and instability. I read these points and you come to the next, his imagery. What is the term of the meaning of the word imagery? Image means a picture. So when you find certain pictures that creates visual images, suppose you see a visual image, suppose there is a forest, picture of forest, then you can imagine about what happens to about the forest. What is a forest? Who stays in the forest? What is the need of the forest? Everything. So in all his poetry, you can find so many images, pictures are there. So this vagueness of poetry is further increased by the abundant use of imagery. Abundant means plenty use of imagery. Images after images are pressing off quick succession, so much as so that the readers are unable to keep pace with the flight of his fancy and imagination. So his poem is loaded with images. That all romantic poets are writing about nature. So they say nature, William also says nature is their teacher. They learn everything from the nature. So that is why William Wordsworth, Shelley, Keats, Byron, Southey, everybody said they love to the nature. Nature is their soul and passion. So this poet is also a nature poet. Like all other romantics, Shelley too loved nature. He found in her a compassion with whom he talked as with a human being. He was more interested in the wilder and vast in nature than in your homelier and familiar aspects. He loved the play of lightning, the motion of the clouds, and ranging of storms, cloud, storm, mountain, river, fountain, animals, birds, everything. They are the aspects of the nature. So all the nature poets, they come forward, they come outward, they come to the outer world and they observe, they perceive all the natural objects and they started writing poetry. So he liked to print nature in a front thought. He could be as sensuous and pictorial as Keats. So generally speaking, his descriptions of nature are vague and his in the doings of nature than her appearance. So now you come to the next point. His nature, philosophy, Shelley as a myth maker. So his nature, the philosophy, what is his philosophy? And then myth maker. So his philosophy of nature is fantastic. He believes in a spirit of so at work in nature and causing all phenomena. But sometimes he despairs, he departs from his conceit of oneness of all and imparts a separate soul or life to a very object of nature. In this way, he makes the innumerable nature myths, and he is one of the greatest myth maker in modern times. And myths have the freshness and sureness of too much of the ancient Greek myths. So, myths, legendary works, you can Greek mythology, Latin mythology, to follow mythology. So just we say that in Indian, we say that the Ramayana, that is a myth, Ram, Lakshman, Sita, Dasarath, we are telling and we believe also them. But nobody has seen, we have not seen to them, but we believe them as our God. So his classicism, Shelley was a scholar deeply read in ancient Greek literature. So those writers, they followed the Greek literature. So you know that Latin literature and Greek literature, they are the ancient literature. And Shelley follows to the Greek literature, ancient literature. This is seen in his choice of Greek themes. And in his frequent allusions, comparisons to Greek myth, mythology, and literature. Most of the time, he takes some instances, some examples, some references from Greek mythology. Suppose I will say Ram. Ram stands for the Ramayana, from the word, from the epic Ramayana, I took Ram, Lakshman, Sita. So that is our mythology, that is our epic poem. Similarly, Shelley brought the ideas from Greek mythology and Greek literature. So because Greek is a classical literature, he had divided deep into Plato, and the ideas of Plato color his works. His conception of love is essentially Platonic because Plato is a great philosopher. He follows to him Plato. And he loved lyrics are entirely free from the elements of sex. He was a Greek in his passion of beauty and perfection. His style too is essentially classic of simplicity and austerity. Then his idealism. So Shelley was essentially a poet of desire and intense aspiration in the keynote of all that work. So next point is his passion for reform. So his optimism means hopeful. Opposite is pessimism. Optimism means hopeful. What do you expect more? In Shelley's poetry, pessimism, the result of frustrated aspiration. Who is a pessimist writer? Thomas Hardy is a pessimist writer. Nairasyavadi. He writes negative things. But this poet is an optimistic, hopeful writer. Mingles with a quality of intense optimism. Shelley was fired with a passion for reforming the world, and he was quite hopeful of the dawn of a golden age when he loved the place of the force. So then next one is the limitation. What are the limitations? What are the drawbacks? In the end, some of the defects may be noted, though he is a great poet, still there is some demerits. One of the greatest done England was ever produced. Shelley had his own limitation. His narrative power was a very weak narrative power, description power. And his characters are all thin, shadowy figure. He was not a conscious artist. He was not conscious. He has taken any characters and he presented. Often he was carried away by the onrushing torrent of ideas he wrote hurriedly. Very quickly he was writing the poetry. He was not taking it a second thought. That is the drawback. The result that his style is often vague and incoherent. Most of the time his poetry is vague. Vague means not clear. Incoherent means not logically connected. One like next para to para are not logically. Instantly he observes and he writes deliberately. That is his drawback. He put no checks on the flights of the imagination, and so often his works are overburdened by the profusion of his fancies. So Simon sums up his defects thus: Simon's haste, incoherence, verbal carelessness, a want of narrative force, and a weak hold of objective reality. So one critic identified his fault in this manner. What is the manner? He was a haste means a quick writer. Incoherence means logically not connected. Ideas are not logically connected. Verbal carelessness when he was not careful to use the language. And then a want of narrative force. So generally, a conscious writer thinks deeply, then he presents, but he instantly delivers perfection of his work. So this is some lines about the Shelley. So now you come to my note block 7. Now you come to block 7. There is P.B. Shelley first. Please open the block 7. I think all of you got it. Now
Yes,
you
sir.
come to, okay. In the block 7, first I have given P.B. Shelley. What is the full name? Percy B.C. Shelley. He was born in 1792 and died in 1822. Only 26 years old. Just you imagine. In 26 years old, he was so much famous. John Keats and Shelley, they live only limited age, 26 years old, and John Keats also 25 years old. So both are the young writers. They died at the young age. Peculiar. So P.B. Shelley, 1792, and then so around 29 years, 29 years, around, not 30 years, 29 years, but John Keats is 25 years. 1792 to 1822 was one of the major English romantic poets, radical in his poetry as well as in his political and social views. Shelley did not achieve fame during his lifetime, but recognition of his achievements in poetry grew steadily following his death, and he became an important influence on subsequent generation of poets, including Robert Browning, Algernon, Charles Swinburne, Thomas Hardy, and W.B. Yeats. So you see, P.B. Shelley has a short span of life, around 29 years old. So 29 years, nowadays 29 years is not a maximum age. It's a very minimum age. So most of the time you have not completed our education also in today's world, in 21st century. But at that time, he has already proved his literary talent, but he was not recognized at the time. But after his death, his works, his poetry was well recognized than his living period. So his poetry were highly appreciated by the great poets W. Yeats. W. Yeats was a modern poet, and he received the Nobel Prize for Literature also. W. Yeats. I will show that he will come in the 10th block. So American literary critic Harold Bloom describes to Shelley as a superb craftsman, a lyric poet without rival, and surely one of the most advanced skeptical intellectuals ever to write a poem. So this critic criticized or highlighted P.B. Shelley in these words. That is why I have highlighted this. So then Shelley's reputation fluctuated during 20th century, but in recent decades, he has achieved increasing critical acclaim. So in this paragraph, second paragraph, I have given his works. One, you just mark it. I just point out Ozymandias, 1818, that is a poem, that is a good poem. Ode to the West End, that is another poem, 1819. To a Skylab, 1820, like this. So now you come to the last line. So the last line is final unfinished work, The Triumph of Life, 1822. This work, when this poem is unfinished, it is not completed. So because he died unfortunately at the age of 1822, he was drowned and he died. That is why this poem is incompleted. So his wife published this poem later on. The Triumph of Life. That is in your syllabus. Triumph means victory, the victory of life. So Shelley also wrote prose fiction, all these things. So now you come to the last paragraph because I have to move forward because time is very short. Shelley's life was marked by family crisis, ill health, and a backlash against his atheism, political views, and defiance of social conventions. He went into permanent self-exile in Italy in 1818, and over the next 4 years produced what Leader and O'Neill call some of the finest poetry of the Romantic period. Who told? This is O'Neill. O'Neill called some of the finest poetry of the Romantic period. So he was exiled to Italy, from England to Italy, because there is some issues, political issues in England, for which he had to leave England and stayed in Italy. Then he got married. So he had married 2 times. His second wife is Mary Shelley. Mary Shelley was the author of, she has also written a book, Frankenstein, and he died in a boat accident in 1822 at the age of 29. I have highlighted this point. So he died at the young age, accident, drowning case. He died at the age of 29 in Italy. So after his death, his poetry was posthumously published by his wife. Wife name is Mary Shelley. And then the readers, the great poets, read his poem and highly appreciated to P.B. Shelley. So one poem is The Trump of Life. This is a very important life. This is a very important poem. So what he has described in this poem, let us see. The Trump of Life. The Trump means a victory of life. Means if you have any problem, any difficulties you face, and if you overcome the difficulties, that is the victory of your life. The Trump of Life was the last major work by Percy B.C. Shelley. This is the last poem before his death in 1822, but this poem is not completed. His wife published this poem after his death. The work was left unfinished. Shelley wrote the poem at Casa Magni in Lerici, Italy, in the early summer of 1822. Shelley was working on the poem when he accidentally drowned on 8 July 1822 during a storm on a voyage from Lebanon. So this question comes in the where he died. This question comes in the NET exam. National Eligibility UGC NET exam. This question comes at which age, at which place. The poem was published in the collection of posthumous poems, then published in London by John Henley like this. So what is the theme of the poem? This poem consists of 548 lines. This is a very long poem. This is not a short poem, long poem. 548 lines. Right? So the theme of the poem is an exploration of nature of being reality. Firstly, life itself, the painted bell. Life, compare, this is a painted bell which obscures and disguises the immortal spirit, is a more universal conqueror than love, death, fame, chastity, divinity, or time, and in a dream vision. He sees this triumphal chariot pass on the storm of its own rushing splendor. Over the captive multitude men, ultimately natural life corrupts and trumps over the spirit. So this poem is written in terza rima style. Terza rima rhyme. Terza rima. So in the next paragraph I have mentioned it. The Triumph of Life is composed in 548 lines in terza rima. So what is terza rima? Then I have explained what is terza rima. So if you find the terza rima rhyme scheme, just you mark it, then you can understand. So all the stanza consists of 3 lines. 3 lines matching A, B, A rhyme scheme. First A, B, A. The second line rhyme scheme match with the next starting B, C, B. Then C to start. C, D, C, then D, E, E, then like this. So now you see terza rima is a rhyme verse from in which the poem or each poem section consists of tercets. Tercets means 3 line stanza. 548 divided by 3. Then you can find number of stanzas. Divide how many stanzas? 548. Tell me very quickly. 548.
182.
182. 182 plus 1 it was because 2 lines left.
Yes, sir.
Remainder is 2.
Yes, sir.
Yes, 182 plus 2 lines. So last 2 line is couplet when they rhyme with each other. So 182 tercet and 1 couplet. I think all of you understood what is tercet and couplet. Tercet consists of 3 lines. So 182 3-line stanzas and 2 line left, that is couplet. I think all of you follow me or not?
Following, sir.
Okay. So now you see this is 3-line stanza with an interlocking 3-line rhyme scheme. The last word of the second line in one tercet provides the rhyme for the first and third line in the tercet. For example, just you check A, B, A. This is the first stanza. Second line starts with the next stanza. B, C, B. Then next stanza को गले middle के देखो C अच्छी फिर C रू start हबो C, D, C. Then next टा कौन हबो को next stanza. Yes.
D E D.
Okay.
ED.
Like this you go forward. And last 2 line is couplet. Couplet means the 2 lines same ZZ or YY like this. So the entire poem consists of 548 lines or 182 tercets plus लिख दो 1 plus 1 couplet. I think clear? Right?
Yes, sir.
Right. So now I have given you the highlight points in the lines 1 to 40 introduction I have given. Then lines 41 to 175, just highlighted lines I have given. Highlighted lines, main ideas I have given. Then you go forward, lines 176 to 295, what is discussion in that part that I have given. The lines 296 to 543 I have given. Like this, I go forward. Last is lines 544 to 548. In these 5 lines, he said, what is life? He asks. So he asks to us, what is life? So in this way, he describes the poem. So now you come to the Triumph of Life is a fragment composition in 1828. It is the last of Shelley's composition. So you will read it this. Just I will make you come to the summary part. Next one, the poet resting, find summary. The poet resting under a hillside remembers having been there before. He then sees a chariot like the one used in the Roman triumph. This is one of the former followers of the chariot, Rousseau. Rousseau is a great philosopher. Now describes how he awoke under a hillside and how, after describing a fair self that first appeared to him. So in this way, you have to study about what is the chariot, who is the Rousseau, and what is the description of the P.B. Shelley. You will read it yourself. Then I have given critical appreciation and analysis, the theme of the poem I have given. I have to go forward. Elegance to power above earth. Then I have given literary influence on the poem. Some text I have quoted. Then you come to style and diction. Style, the style of the poem. Diction means language of the poem. Tarzarima style. Then conclusion I have given. Let me read the conclusion. In his best writing, personal suffering is felt as qualifying force that accompanies the main affirmative moment of the poem. He suffered in his life and he is described. Shelley is almost invariably strong in poems where the social, the natural and the personal words coincide. When he is most purely personal, conflict is inherent in his poetry as it was in his view of the world and in the actions of his life. Perhaps for this very reason, Shelley is the only great English poet outside the 20th century who would entirely at home among the social change, scientific and political struggles of today. So by this way, we discuss about Shelley. Now, dear friends, please come to your John Keats in your PDF. Open your PDF, John Keats. So let me acquaint with you, John Keats. We'll go for fast so that we are acquainted with this. John Keats. Okay. PDF.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So now you see Keats as a poet, merits and demerits of his poetry. First I have given the demerits of the Keats that is described. You just go ahead very quickly. Then I have given his merits. Let me discuss his merits. Number one, his love of beauty, his sensuousness. Keats is a very sensuous poet. So we have 5 sense organs. We can smell, we can taste, we can touch, we can feel, like this. So he writes poetry in the sensuous. So we say Keats is a sensuous poet, and he writes maximum. He writes the odes, O-D-E. So if each poem you find ode to autumn, ode word is there. So his artistry. Then third point, his romanticism, love of the past. The next point is the love of nature. The next point is words. I told you that though Keats has left behind a number of long narrative poems, Endymion, long poem, Isabella, long poem, Lamia, long poem, Hyperion, that is in your syllabus, Hyperion. Hyperion, a fragment 1, a fragment 2. This is not a short poem. This is a very long poem, Hyperion. His genius was essentially Odic. Odic means addressing poem. Ode, O-D-E. So we say John Keats is a ode poem. So any poem he writes, before that he writes ode, O-D-E. So it is in his 6 great odes that Keats is at best. So what are the 6 greats? Endymion, Isabella, Lamia, Hyperion, like this, and other poems he is highlighted. So these words are in a thing apart in literature. So in your course, one word is there, Hyperion. So then his true place. Then I have given Keats as a writer of words, his greatness in the field, the enjoyment of beauty, tone of melancholy, but the enjoyment. Then his realistic negative capability, that is a theory. This is very important. Negative capability, that is a theory that you have to read. This may come in the short note. So I have given important, there is a red mark underline part, that the definition of negative capability there. Then the temporary and the permanent, escape, disillusionment, then artistry. So these things you will get in this PDF. Now you come to the same block where we are discussing John Shelley. After that, there is John Keats. Now, if please open the same block 7, then we can find John Keats. We have 20 minutes. Within that period, we have to also go to the block 8. So within 3 to 4 minutes, I will wind up this to make you acquainted, and I will go forward. John Keats. So John Keats was born in 1795 and died in 1821. I told you that he died at the age of young age, 26 years old. Shelley died 29 years old. John Keats died in 26 years old. So John Keats is a writer of odes, a very sensuous poet. Was an English poet of the second generation of romantic poets with Lord Byron, Percy Bysshe Shelley. His poems had been in publication for less than 4 years when he died of tuberculosis, TB, at the age of 25. So he died of disease, that is tuberculosis. You know, TB is a disease. He died of at the age of 25, not 26, because the born age may be July or August, like this. They were indifferently received his lifetime, but his fame grew rapidly after his death. So these two poets became more famous, Shelley and Keats, after their death, not during their life period. By the end of the century, he was placed in the canon of English literature. Keats had a style heavily loaded with sensualities. I told you that John Keats is a sensuous poet. And then notably in the series of odes, and then So he has written many odes. All the poems started with ode. You just check ode to Nightingale, ode on a Gracianon. Just like this, he was writing. So in the present poem, Hyperion, so that is an ode. Hyperion is an epic poem by John Keats. This is a ode and this is a long narrative poem that tells the story of the fall of the Titan gods at the hands of the Olympians. This is the theme. The poem focuses on the story of Hyperion and is defeated by Apollo. Historical background. The god of knowledge and poetry. Apollo is the god of knowledge and poetry, exploring the idea of human suffering and knowledge that can be gained by it. So the theme of suffering is given next. He started writing Hyperion in the autumn 1818 while nursing his beloved younger brother Tom, who was slowly and painfully dying of tuberculosis. His brother also died of tuberculosis. So Tom died at the end of November, aged just 19, and Keats died at the age of 25. So teenage, one is young age. Both of them died. So then the theme of progress, just you go ahead, the theme of progress, the reception of the poem, then the introduction of the poem, then some text given, some text, then critical analysis, the theme of the struggle between old order and the new order, theme of beauty as a creative force, then some text given, personal element in the poem, then style of Hyperion, then critical appreciation another given. So in this way, the poem is narrated or poem is described, and the conclusion is given. Finally, what is the conclusion I've given? With all its drawback, Hyperion is a lovable, epic, long narrative poem. It gives us a thesis of life in a concrete shape, dealing with superhuman beings. The poem retains his human character. It does not take us away from the world of man. Rather, it helps us look at life with greater insight, and more than that of the poem has it artistically worthy. It has its own artistic beauty, which makes it a memorable literary piece. So in Endymion, Keats has trailed the reader through the endless labyrinth of dreaming narrative and closely description of amorous adors. It's like this, the poem, I have winded off this one. So just 1 minute break. You share me the attendance sheet. We'll go to the block 8. Otherwise, we cannot finish the syllabus because today I have to discuss anyhow block 8. Tomorrow I will discuss block 9 and 10. Right? Please share me the attendance 8:47. You share me last moment attendance sheet. I think most of the students have joined right now. Very good. Sometimes you show your picture, sometimes you can on your video. I can see Chitaranjan, I think so. You have on your video, I show you. But your name is Kunu, I think so. Video. If anyone switch on the video and I will see you, but you can see me, but I'm not able to see you. That is not necessary, but if you want. Okay, probably. Okay. So you have shared the attendance sheet. So now you go ahead. So then you come to the Victorian poetry. So I have given one PDF. So block 8 is Victorian poetry and pre-Raphaelite. So I have given Victorian poetry first, then I have given another PDF that is the pre-Raphaelites. So in this block 8, you find Victorian poets and pre-Raphaelite you will get. So now you open your PDF, Victorian poets. So let me open my book and then I will tell you who are the Victorian poets and what is their characteristics.
Sir, first page is not clearly visible. 203 page.
Not clearly visible.
Yes, sir.
Okay, just open it. If it is not, I will share once again. Don't worry. I'll share, but just you check for this class. Any means you just acquaint with this. So you see that Victorian period, so Romantic period ended with 1798 to 1832. After that, Victorian period started, 1833 to 1901. So that is the period of Victorian period. Any poet that came under that period, 1830, after the 1832, and then 1901. Why it is called Victorian? The Queen Victoria was ruled over England. Queen, Queen system, Elizabeth, Victorian, like this. So that is the period, Victorian period, 1832 to then 1901. If it is not clearly visible, just watch it and I will share it. So then I have given main features of the Victorian poetry in the second page. Main features. This is a very old book. I told you that it is around 30 years back book. So an age of prose, Victorian age is the age of prose, moral purpose, idealism, Victorian wasteland. So like this. So around 10 pages notes are given. You go through it. If you are not able to read it, once again I will share with you. Who are the great poet? Alfred Lord Tennyson, Robert Browning, then Matthew Arnold, then next one is Edward Fitzgerald, and then Elizabeth Barrett Browning. So these are the poets, great poets of this period. Then what are the main features of this period? So the role of main features of this period, the main characteristics of this period, Victorian period. So they write about philosophical poem, moral poem, prose, they write. So here you find so one poet is there, that name is Robert Browning. So Robert Browning writes about dramatic monologue. So you note a word that is called dramatic monologue. DRAMATIC, dramatic monologue, MONOLOGUE. Dramatic monologue means dramatic monologue. So one example I can give so that you can easily understand. I will compare it to others so you can understand. You have seen drama or a film. So in a film, what happens? So the villain tortured to the hero a lot. And finally, the hero promised to take the revenge upon the villain. When the hero takes the promise to take upon the revenge upon the villain, he remains on the stage one. Only one himself, and he speaks to himself, by any means I will take revenge. In a drama, that is called soliloquy. Soliloquy means one character is on the stage, he promises to take revenge or to do a daring or great work. Similarly, in a poetry, so in a critical situation, a character, not the poet, a character in the poem takes a decision to do, what not to do. So it is a situation in which a character thinks to take a decision. That is called dramatic monologue. So Robert Browning is the poet who is a master of dramatic monologue. So obviously you can say psychological. So he thinks more psychologically, interpret the characters, and the characters flourishes his action. So that is Robert Browning. So in your now you come to the note block 8. I have given block 8. You open it. Block 8. I will make you acquainted with Robert Browning. Robert Browning. Now you come to Robert Browning was born in 1812 and died in 1889. This period, now you see this is the Victorian period, 1798 to 1832 to 1901, that is the Victorian period. During this period, any poet came, they are the Victorian poet. Was an English poet and playwright whose dramatic monologue, this point you highlight. I told what is a dramatic monologue? In a critical situation, if you describe anything, that is dramatic monologue. Poetry, that is dramatic monologue. In drama, that is soliloquy. SOLILOQUY. One character on the stage, he promises anything. That is, one character speaks to himself. I am here alone. I am speaking to myself. I'll do this thing in a critical situation. In a critical situation, if you take any decision, you speak to yourself. That is called dramatic monologue. So Robert Browning is a great dramatic monologue writer. Then he was noted for irony, characterization, dark humor, social commentary, historical settings, and challenging vocabulary and syntax. Right? So his early poems are Pauline and Paracelsus poems. So the present poem, which is in your syllabus, Sardello, that was published in 1840, that I have highlighted, bold it. You have seen it. So he got married to whom? Elizabeth Barrett, who was also a poet. In his time, he married fellow poet Elizabeth Barrett. Elizabeth Barrett is also a Victorian poet. So like this. So now I have described the Sardello. Sardello, book 1. So like this, book 2, book 3, book 4, book 5, book 6. This is the 6 parts that I have presented it here. So you have to read it yourself. Then there is another poem of the same poet, Porphyria's Lover. Porphyria's Lover. This is a very good poem and easy poem. I have given the text. Just you mark it. The text is in a different color I have given. That you see, Porphyria's Lover. That is a poem that you see. What is the summary of this poem? So you see, the summary is given. Porphyria's Lover, which first appeared in 1836, is one of the earliest and most shocking of Browning's dramatic monologue. So the speaker lives in a cottage in the countryside. His lover, a blooming young woman named Porphyrias, comes in out of storm and proceeds to make a fire and bring cheer to the cottage. She embraces the speaker, offering him her bare shoulder. He tells us that he does not speak to her. Instead, he says she begins to tell him how she has momentarily overcome societal strictures to be with him. He realizes that she worships him at his instant, realizing that she will eventually give into society's pressure and wanting to preserve the moment. He wraps her hair around her neck. So the beloved hair, he covered his neck just like a towel. The hair ko anikim ta bekare gude jala. Like this. Then what happens? He sits with her body this way the entire night. Neck and strangle her. He then toys with a cuffs, opening his eyes and propping the body off against his side. He sits with her body this way the entire night, the speaker remarking, God has not yet moved to punish him. So I have described line wise also. You just mark line 1 to 4, the summary is given. Line 5 to 9, you read it, a very good poem, you can understand very easily. Line 5 to 9, then line 10 to 13, you make it bold. Line 14 to 17, then this is line 18 to 20, then line 21 to 25, then line 26 to 29, then 30 to 35, then after 36 to 42, then after line 43 to 51, 52 to 55, then 56 to 60, then conclusion. Now you come to the conclusion. By the end of this poem, the reader can conclude that the speaker is deranged and lovesick man. In order to freeze a moment in time, he kills the woman he loves and lies all night with her cups, with her dead body. How he killed? With his hair, strangled his neck and killed. He treats her as an object and he takes no concern for her life. Rather, he believes that he has the right to choose for her and he chooses to kill her. In his delusion, he believes that she would rather be with him forever than go on living without him. So, since the speaker has proven to the readers that he is no son, then The readers become unsure of everything that the speaker has said. Suddenly, it is wonder how closely the reality of the woman's action corresponded with the way the speaker describes them. Like a true sociopath, the speaker denies that his sections were wrong. So instead, he concludes that because God has not spoken out against him, what he did must have been right. So this poem is very easy poem. I have given you the line-wise explanation, so you read it, the text as well as the summary. Now you come to pre-Raphaelites. What is the pre-Raphaelites that I have given? There is a PDF given pre-Raphaelites, pre-Raphaelite brotherhood. Means in this period, so there is a PDF given. I have no time to go through the PDF. You will see the PDF yourself. Then in that pre-Raphaelites moment, what happened? The writers give emphasis on the paintings, attics, drawings, picturing they give. So they are the pre-Raphaelites brotherhood. So who are the poets at this time? Dante Gabriel Rossetti, mane D.G. Rossetti. Dante Gabriel Rossetti, in short, D.G. Rossetti. Christina Georgina Rossetti, C.G. Rossetti. So their poems are My Sister's Sleep and The Blessed Damozel, Gobin Market. So there is another poet, Oscar Wilde. His poem is The Ballad of Reading Gaol. So I have discussed D.G. Rossetti's poem, My Sister's Sleep. So in this poem, let me tell you this poem, then I will wind up my class. My Sister's Sleep means there is a family. In that family, there are three members, mother, son, and daughter. The daughter is dead. My sister sleeping, and that is her last sleep. The sister is dead, and the brother is there. So the brother and mother shows that their sister is dead. And then they are being mournful situation that their sister sleep. How they described their sister sleep means how, who will describe? Sister means the brother will describe. So mother is there, brother is there, and sister is dead. So this is a poem about the death of one sister and the brother is describing. So now you come to Dante Gabriel Rossetti, so which is given in the color, an analysis of D.G. Rossetti's My Sister Sleep. This is given in one color. Please come to that note. Last part. Now you check. The Victorian painters. He is also one of the most significant poets of the period. One of the works of his poetry career, My Sister's Sleep, is a poem about a sad situation because the sister is dead in a small house, in a family that includes mother, son, and sister. It tells the story of a girl lying in her deathbed. The girl is dead, and her brother and mother who desperately wait around him. So mother and the son is waiting how their sister will get the life. It is not possible. Once someone is dead, she is left the world forever. So the brother is explaining his sorrow. The narrator, who is the brother of an ill girl, is the center of the poem. He describes the room and the situation. The poem has symbols and subjects. Since Dante is also a painter, he integrates subjects and symbols in a remarkably attractive way. Dante describes events and objects as if he were drawing, depicting his tension filled the room. So in this way, the poem is discussed and you go through it, and let's wind up the class. And in the tomorrow class, I will discuss 9 and 10. Okay. So I have shared with you notes. First PDF I have given to you, 20th century poetry. I think trends in 20th century poetry. So yesterday I have shared with you. Am I right? Please open that one. 20th century poetry. The literary background, trends in 20th century poetry. Yesterday I shared a PDF.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let us discuss first the modernist British poetry and introduction. So in the introduction, we will discuss about trends in 20th century poetry. So in the last class, we discussed Victorian poetry. Victorian poetry started from which year? 1832 to 1901. After that, 20th century poetry came, 1901 to onwards. So that is the 20th century modern age started. Then up to 1980, modern age. Then 1982 onwards, post-modernism. You have to remember this period. So that will be easy to understand the literature. So 1901 to onwards, that is 1980, that is a modernist period, modern period. Then 1980 to onwards, till now, we are in the age of post-modern period. Right now, we are in the post-modern period. So what are the trends in 20th century poetry that I have given to you a note? Tradition and experiment in modern poetry I have given. Just to check, that is the first point. So modern poetry is loaded with tradition and experiment in modern poetry. The last line, 20th century poetry is a curious mixture of the traditional and the experimental of the old and the new. It is complex and many-sided. That I have given to you. Clear? Someone else is giving the message, sir, please add to me. So if you see the message, please add her number or his number. So this is the first point. 20th century poetry is a curious mixture. So first point, the last two lines I have underlined, that you check. 20th century poetry is a curious mixture, very interesting mixture of the traditional and the experimental of the old and the new. It's a mixture of old tradition and the new tradition. It is a complex and many-sided. Modern age people, modern age tradition, modern age society is very complex. It is not the simple. People are very much complex. So dear students, please take a classroom snap and you share me at the initial of the class, at the end part of the class. They need 2 attendants, beginning of the class and at the time of maximum students appear in the end of the class. Please share at least 1 photocopy. So second point is abundance of output, fall of quality. The second point is this. So I have underlined some of the points that you check. So this is why Roy Campbell described modern poetry as an epidemic of intellectual and emotional diarrheas. And a she word finds it eccentric way word and puerile of commonplace. So the two critics, they have discovered, they have commented on the 20th century poetry. This poetry is a revolt against the previous tradition. Modern poetry is just like a revolt against the Victorian age poetry. So this is the second point that I will go through it. Just I will make you brush up the points, then I will come to the poets. Today's class is very important because there are 2 great writers. One is W.A. Yeats and T.S. Eliot. So third point is note of a revolt, that is realism. So modern age poetry is realistic, not in the age of romanticism or in the fantasy. So you know that romantic age, Victorian age, so they belong to the age of romanticism. You find that is imagination and sensualness. But in the modern age poetry, which is the realistic, this period is realistic. We believe in reason, we believe in science. So this is the modern age poetry. So I have underlined modern poetry is characterized by the use of colloquial diction, speech, rhythm, and prosaic words. So generally in the modern age, the writers are using 3 verse, prosaic style. There is no rhyme verse. Most of the time they are not using rhyme verse, blank verse. They are using 3 verse or prose style. So this is the next point. Come to delight in the sensuous beauty of the nature. So always nature plays vital role upon the literature. So any literary person, he or she is inspired by the nature. So nature plays a vital role in literature. So obviously, modern poetry is also inspired by the literature, inspired by the nature. Next, humanitarian spirit. So modern age has so more many humanitarian spirit. You know that in the modern age, so many activities are happening which you do not like. For example, criminals, suicides, prostitutes, drunkards, frustration. So many works which are happening in the today's world due to any reason it may be. You do not like. So still then there is humanitarian because so if you say that the world is full of immoral activities, still then there are certain activities which are moral. But immoral activities comes to our front immediately. Moral activities comes to our front very late. That is why. So modern age brings the immoral things, criminal activities, suicide activities, prostitutes, drunkard activities into the front, either through electronics media or news, printed media. That is why we say the modern age is very polluted. Right. So this activity has been increased. The next point is disillusionment. So this is the period of disillusionment, pessimistic period. Because you know that in modern age, we faced two world war. First World War 1914 to 1918. Second World War 1939 to 1945. So what happens during these two wars? The whole world has been devastated, destroyed. So we people have in the world face a lot of problems, lot of havocs. So that is why this is the age of disillusionment. Still then, right now in the postmodern era, also you find there are so many conflict, international conflict. You know, Ukraine and Russia, India and China, Pakistan and India. So these are the North Korea, South Korea. So there are so many tussles are being there. So 1 year it has been already continued, Russia and Ukraine war. So what happens? There is a great loss of Russia as well as Ukraine. But which is possible in the discussion, that is not possible through war. So that may be the theme of the postmodernism era. So then a religious note. Next point is a religious note. So everybody knows that. So if you are in a stressful situation, if you come to religion, spiritualism, then your mind is refreshed. So in every age, people believe in religious activities, spiritual activities. We believe that is also happening in the age of modernism. Then the metaphysical note. You know that metaphysical poetry, John Donne, George Herbert, Andrew Marvell, they are using the metaphysical poetry they use. Their poetry is intellectual as well as emotional. So modern poetry is also the poetry of science, poetry of religion, poetry of mysticism. So modern poetry is loaded with this. So these are the basic points that you have to go through it, and then you read the notes and other points are there. So they are using also some innovations. Last point you can check. Some innovations, impressionism, imagism, surrealism are some of the innovations that comes in the 20th century poetry. The impressionists seek to convey the vague, fleeting sensations passing through their minds by the use of a novel imagery or metaphor. The imagery handed by the Ezra Pound aim then art clarity and expression through the use of the hard, accurate, and definite images to convey their intellectual and emotional complexity. So, in a nutshell, I can say that modern poetry, modern age poetry, you know. So, what happens in the present day society? The writers, the poets, they observe it and they reflect it in their literature, through their literature. In the modern age, you find two great poets. One is W. Yeats and second one is T.S. Eliot. That is in your block 9. Now you open my note. Sorry, I have already shared two PDF to you. One PDF I have given, W. Yeats I have given, that is my own article which is published. Now you can open and you can check it. W. Yeats is a symbolist poet. Now you open and you check it. That is my own article which is published on international journal. Now you can open and check it. Please open. I have said it. Did you check it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that is my own article that I have written, that is published in international journal. Which journal it is published? In which journal it is written in the top of the paper?
SP publication, International Journal of English and Studies.
Okay, what is the title of the paper?
Symbolism in W.E.
It's
Yeats
poetry.
Poetry of critical study.
Yes. So W.A. uses symbolism in his poetry. I have discussed how symbolism has been used in his poetry. This is one of the biggest articles that you will go through it at your leisure time, at your home, you will read. So then I have given another PDF that is about T.S. Eliot. Now you open it. T.S. Eliot. Another PDF. That is also my paper, which is published on international journal. Right?
Sir, presentation on T.S. Eliot at World Literature webinar, that one?
That is the presentation. That is the whole presentation I have given. But before that, there is a link I have given to you. In that link, you will find. Before that, you check there is a link.
Yes, sir.
Now you open it.
Opened it.
Another PDF is given. T.S. Eliot.
Yes, sir. Yes.
PDF. Read the title.
The Achievement of T.S. Eliot's Poetry, a Critical Study.
Yes. Critical study. In which journal?
The Criterion, an international journal in English.
Very good. The Criterion and International Journal English. This is the whole PDF you will get about T.S. Eliot. Then I have given a link. In which link? I have given a presentation. So I have given the slides to you, and that slide I had presented in a World Literature webinar. Right? So you can, in your free time, you can watch that video. Then you can understand what I have told about T.S. Eliot. I have discussed the T.S. Eliot 1 hour there, because that is addressed to the whole world, not in India. That is a world literature webinar. World literature, you understand, all over the world, the people of the world appeared there, and I addressed about T.S. Eliot. So you got the presentation, you got the YouTube, you got the material of a paper published. That after the presentation, the paper is published in Criterion. So you will go through that carefully. Now you come to my that I have said block 9, block 10. Now you open it, then I will come to discussion. Now you open it. W8 first. I think all of you opened it.
Yes, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, now you come to the discussion. W. Yeats, William Butler Yeats, was born in 1865 and died in 1934. Who was he? Now, he was an Irish poet. He belongs to Ireland. He was a dramatist, a writer, and politician. One of the foremost figures of 20th century literature. He was a driving force behind the Irish literary revival and became a pillar of the Irish literary who helped to found the Abbey Theatre. So first time he introduced a theatre. He was not only a poet but also a reputed dramatist. And in Ireland, he established this theatre first. Abbey Theatre is the first theatre he established there. In his latter years, he served 2 terms as a senator of the Irish Free State. When Ireland became independent, he was selected as a senator, just like in India, where Parliament were selecting to the member of Parliament, MP. So he was also selected as a senator, as a 2 terms. 2 times he was selected as a senator in Irish Free State, because Ireland was under the control of Britishers. When after the independence, there was election and he won in the election 2 times. So you can say that William Butler Yeats, short W. Yeats, was not only a poet but also a dramatist as well as a great politician in Ireland. So from 1900, his poetry grew more physical, realistic, and politicized. He moved away from the transcendental beliefs of his youth, though he remained preoccupied with some elements, including cyclical theories of life. He had become the chief playwright of the Irish Literary Theatre in 1897 and early on promoted younger poets such as Ezra Pound. Yeats was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1923. So he is the Nobel laureate. In 1923, he received the award, Nobel Laureate Award in 1923. So you know that in India, one person has received the Nobel Prize, he is the Rabindranath Tagore, right? So he has written great poem, the Gitanjali. So after that, in William Butler Yeats also got this prize, that is Nobel Prize in Literature in the year 1923. So now you come to his poetic world. So I have given a picture, the name is given Morgan. So this woman is the central character who made William Butler Yeats to become a great poet in the world. And for this woman, he received this prize. How? Now you see. So when Morgan was young, W. Yeats fell in love with this woman. So this Morgan, W. Yeats fell in with this Morgan, and then W. Yeats proposed him for marriage, and Morgan refused. So first time he refused, then he proposed for the second time. So in the second paragraph I have written, in 1891, he visited Morgan in Ireland and proposed marriage, but was rejected. In 1891, he was rejected. He did not agree. Then consequently, then you come to the next page, he proposed for next consecutive 3 times, 1899, 1900, and 1901. So in this way, 4 times he proposed Morgan for marriage, but she refused each proposal. So that is why Morgan is completely disappointed and harassed. So this situation made him to become a great poet, because from depression he started writing poetry. So then what she did in 1903, to his dismay and sorrow, married the Irish nationalist Major John McBride. So Morgan married to McBride, John McBride. His only other love affair during this period was Olivia Shakespeare, whom he first met in 1894 and parted from 1897. So now this picture is W. Yeats. Now look at this handsome person. This person fell in love with Morgan. So at that time, Morgan was extremely beautiful in the Ireland. And he fell in love and proposed her 4 times, 1891, 1899, 1900, 1901, but he was frustrated. So then 1903, Morgan married to McBride. Then what happened? So after that, then they have a child. Who? Morgan and McBride. So then after 2 years, what happened? That is a mystery, but they were separated. And there, they did not stay together for a long time, and they were divorced. McBride divorced, McBride and Morgan were divorced. Then Morgan stayed with another person, and she gave birth to a child. Her name is Iseult. That you can check it. Iseult, in which paragraph? It is given in the page number 4. In the red light, I have given. Page number 4, 3rd line. Iseult Gunn, that is her daughter. Clear? So then last time in the year, she visited once again when W. Yeats was 51 years old. Again he visited to Morgan and proposed her to marry. So you imagine, 4 times frustrated. Then again, after their divorce, she got married to another person. She has one boy and one girl. The girl age is also 21 years old. Her daughter is Izzat Gan was 21 years old. At that time, WH is 51 years old. So again he proposed to Morgan and Morgan strongly refused. And then WH proposed for marriage to her daughter. That is the most important thing. So Morgan proposed, Izzat Gan was Mord's second child and proposed to her daughter, and daughter also refused. So then now he is completely frustrated and he got married. Just to check before page 3 number page, there is marriage to Georgie Heidi Lees. So WH married to Georgie Hyde Lees, page number 3, just above. Marriage to Georgie Hyde Lees, got married. So then what happened? Because as he had the strong wish to marry to Morgan, that mentality is in his mind. And 51 years old, he got married and selected 2-time senator. But in every poem, he is indirectly referring to Morgan, not naming her name, not writing Morgan, but C. So C stands for Morgan. So for this, she wrote so many poems, symbolic poem, because in each poem she stands Morgan. She refers to Morgan, and Morgan fell in love with Morgan, made him a great poet in the world, and for which he received the Nobel Prize in Literature. And when the media asked to the Morgan that your would-be husband or your lover received the Nobel Prize, what is your comments? Morgan replied that I wanted. So if I got married to her, he would not become a great poet. I made him frustrated, for which he became he received the World Nobel Literature Award. But what about the WH? WH told that I became frustrated, disappointed, despised, for which each moment I am thinking about Morgan, I am writing poetry referring to Morgan. So now you come to, this is the background of the WH. WH is a frustrated person in love. That's why his poems are like that. So in your syllabus, there is a poem, No Second Troy. This is given a title. I have given a poem that you can check it. No Second Troy. So this is a very small poem of 12 lines, but it is a very complicated poem, not an easy poem. No Second Troy. What is the meaning of Troy? So you know that. So in Greek mythology, there is a war. That is a Trojan War. Trojan War because of there was a beautiful girl at the time, and for which the war occurred. The war being established there. That is called Troy, Trojan of Troy. So no second Troy means the poet did not want to bring second type of incident in Ireland, just like in Greek mythology. In Greek, because of a beautiful girl, there was a devastation, destruction. So the WH did not want to bring second repetition of the same Troy in Ireland. So what happens in this poem? The poet says that this is the period of the British rule to Ireland. In this time, all the Irish people are united to get the freedom. They are fighting for the freedom. Same time, WH is a frustrated lover, and he is a frustrated lover. That is why, in referring to his beloved Morgan, he has written this poem. After being frustrated, and when Morgan married to MacBride, and they have given birth to a child, then WH wrote this poem in frustration. Now let us see how the poem is written. 12-line poem. Let me recite the poem, then after I will explain the poem. Please take care of it. Why should I blame her that she filled my days with misery, or that she would be of late, have taught to ignorant men most violent ways, or haul the little straight upon the great? Had they but courage equal to desire? What could have made her peaceful with a mind that nobleness made simple as a fire, with beauty like a Titan bow, a kind that is not natural in an age like this, being high and solitary, most stern? Why? What could she have done being what she is? Was there another Troy for her to burn? So in this poem, the poet has used she. So she refers to Mardgan. In most of his poems, he has referred to Mardgan, but nowhere he has written Mardgan. That is why you have to know about who is Mardgan and how he fell in love and how he was disappointed. After disappointed, he wrote the poem and he became more popular, and then he wrote became the Nobel laureate. Then in this poem, you find there are 4 questions are there. These questions are called rhetorical questions or ornamental questions. What is rhetorical and ornamental questions? Rhetorical questions means the questions, the answers, the questions that are raised, you do not search for the answer. The answers are also there. You create the question and you find the answers. That is called a rhetorical question. Here, the poet creates the questions and also explain the answer there. So what is the reference to the poem? The poet says that. So there was a Trojan War in Greek because of one lady. Similarly, if I will want, another war will be there in Ireland. I do not want that war. I do not want war in Ireland because of Mardgan. So no, Mardgan made me disappointed, but that does not mean that I will bring war into my country. So now you come to, there is a paragraph I will describe. It was shattered means broken, by Maud's sudden marriage to John McBride in the February of 1903. So after the 4th time proposed for marriage, she disappointed and got married to McBride. Then W.B. is frustrated. And Mardgan was the Irish revolutionary whom it loved, but who rejected his proposal of marriage. No second try was written after the final rejection of its love affair and sudden marriage to John McBride, who ironically was later made the martyr of Irish freedom movement by the efforts of Yeats himself. Although this marriage of Maud and McBride resulted in a separation 2 years later, it left Yeats in great distress. So after being frustrated, the W.B. Yeats involved in the Irish independence movement because Ireland was ruled by Britishers. He struggled how to Ireland will get the freedom, just like India got the freedom in 1947 from the Britishers. Similarly, they fought against for the freedom movement instead of fighting for Mardgan. But her marriage with McBride has given a great pain in the minds of the W.B. Yeats. Then now I have given the explanation lines 1 to 5, one paragraph, and then second, another 6 to 12, another description. Now you come to 1 to 5, how I have described. The poem opens with a rhetorical question. Already I have told what is a rhetorical question. Question with answer is known to you. The answer to which is implied in the question itself. The poet, let me explain the poem so that line by line you can understand. Why should I blame her that she filled my days? Why should I blame her? Why should I blame to Mardgan that she filled my days with misery? So she refused my words. She did not accept my words, for which I am disappointed. My life is now misery, sorrowful. Suppose you are fall in love with a woman and she is away from you. Obviously, you will be disappointed because falling in love with easy, but forgetting the love is not easy. Falling in love with easy. At the first and first sight, you can fall in love with a woman, but to forget a woman is not so more easy. That's his say. Or that should a let have taught to ignorant men most violent ways. Who are the ignorant? At that time, Ireland is fighting for the independence from the Britishers. So if you will not concentrate on the independence movement, the Ireland will lose a great thing. So he said that Instead of running after a woman, let us run after the national spirit or the revolutionary spirit to make freedom. Or hold the little spirit upon the great, had they but courage equal to desire. So he is associated with the revolutionaries, Irish revolutionaries, and had to get the freedom of Ireland. So in frustration, he wrote this poem. Then what could have made her a peaceful with a mind? So when you are frustrated lover, how can you get your mind peace? You have to divert your mind. You have to engage your mind in other activities. And if you think about the woman day and night every time, then you cannot work, you cannot sustain in this world. That he is explaining. That nobleness made as simple as a fire, with beauty like a tightened bow, a kind that is not natural in an age like this. So in this age, in this middle age, if you become fire, if you become react on this situation, you cannot go ahead. Similarly, during the time of war, during the time of revolution, you should come forward to get the independence. Being high and solitary, most on, why and what could she have done being what she is? Was there any Troy for her to burn? So he did not want to bring another Troy. You know that in Greek, if you read the Greek mythology, there is a Trojan of war because of one beautiful girl. So for modern, I do not want to bring any war in my country. So this is the overall idea of the poem. In frustration, he wrote this poem. So you will go through this poem very carefully. I have given also the descriptions I have given. Right. So now you come to T.S. Eliot. So what is the theme? In the last paragraph, I have given the theme. Last of all, we can say that the poem No Second Troy is strong call towards peace living. The violent is a war of destruction. The poem appeals that no beauty like Helen of Troy. This is the name I have forgotten. Helen of Troy. This name I wanted to say. Or today's Morgan. This is Greek and this is Ireland. I do not want the war like in the Greek mythology, Helen of Troy. There was a Troy war because of Helen. So I do not want to bring any war in Ireland because of Morgan. That the poet says. I want peace and love in my country. So now you come to T.S. Eliot. T.S. Eliot is one of the greatest poets in the modern period. He also received the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1948, right? So in 1948, he received the Nobel Prize for Literature. He is the major contribution. The two long poems are there. One is the Westland, another is the Four Quartets. So let us see about some of the lines about T.S. Eliot. T.S. Eliot was an American by birth. He was born in America, but an Englishman by adoption. He came to England and took the citizenship. He became a naturalized British in 1927. He was born in 1888 and citizenship in 1927 in England. So how many years he stayed in America? Now you understood. 12 years and then this is 27. So as well as he had the blending of the best American blood and the English intellect. So he has two cultures. One is American culture. He was born in America, but he stayed in England. So he was with two cultures, American culture and the British culture. He came to possess a many-sided personality. In 1915, he married Vivian Highwood after a brief love affair. In 1947, she died after prolonged illness. Then, in January 1957, he married Miss Valerie Fletcher, who had been his private secretary. He got married 2 times. So, after his death of his wife and the prolonged illness, he married to his own secretary, that is Valerie Fletcher. Then now you come to Eliot had his early education in the Smith Academy in St. Louis, and he completed his preparation for college at the Milton Academy in Massachusetts. He studied philosophy at Harvard University. As an undergraduate, he edited and contributed poems to the Harvard Advocate. In 1914, he came to Europe, studying at first Germany and then after the outbreak of the war at Oxford. Although he completed a doctoral thesis on the philosophy, he did his PhD in philosophy. Okay. In earlier time, those are the students of philosophy, they are the intellectual minds, right? At Harvard, he had studied linguistics, humanities, German, French, and English, and comparative literature. He is the master of many subjects. From 1917 to 1919, he was the assistant editor, The Egoist, and for that period and the years. Then I have highlighted one point, Vijay. The last paragraph, the British Order of Merit and the Nobel Prize of Literature were awarded to him in 1948. That is the red mark I have given to mark it. Now you come to the next paragraph. What are the major poems that he has written? I have highlighted. Prufrock and Other Observations, Love Song and J. Alfred Prufrock. Then these are the poems he has written. The Westland, Four Quartets, and many more poems. So now you come to the 3 phases of his life. 3 bullet marks are given. First period, second period, third period. In the first period, 1905 to 1909, it was the experimental period when he began his poetic career. Experimental. Just he started writing poetry in the school days and college days like this. The creative work of this period are immature, juvenile, but they indicate the sign of poetic talent. The poems are published in the various college and school magazine. This is the formative period. Second period, 1909 to 1917, that is the second period of his life. This is the period of urban poetry. The collection entered Prufrock and Other Observations, 1917. From this, he became popular. The most important poem include, this is a book name, Prufrock and Other Observations. That is the name of a volume of books, 1917. In that book, there is a poem, The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, Portrait of a Lady, The Prelude, Rhapsody on a Windy Night, The Boston Evening Transcript, and Mr. Appleniva. Then you come to the third period. In the third period of his life, 1918 to 1925, this is the most significant period of Eliot's life. This is a mature period of his literary life. He was influenced by the impact of modernism. The important poems are Gerontion, The Westland, The Hollow Man. That is the way. So I have forgotten to write 4 quartets. In the 4th period, maybe that is written. This is the period of the religious and Christian, and the 5th period I mentioned it, right? So in the 5th period, that is 1935 to 1943, that is the philosophical period. Generally, you have to keep in mind, in the young age, the poets write about the theme of love, but in the old age, people turn into spiritualism, philosophical ideas. So in the last period of his life, he wrote, there is a poem, that poem name is 4 Quartets. That is a philosophical poem. That is the title of the poem is 4 Quartets. In this poem, you find 4 parts. This poem is a combination of 4 parts. The one part is Burnt Norton, East Coker, The Dry Salvages, and Little Gate. So now in your syllabus, there is only one poem, that is Westland. So Westland is a long poem. It is a long poem. And this poem consists of 5 parts, right? So in your syllabus, there is part 1, part 2, and part 3. There is no more of part 5, right? What are the first part, second part, third part, fourth part? The first part title is The Burial of the Dead. So that you can find in the poem analysis. The first part is The Burial of the Dead. Second part is A Game of Chess. Third part is The Fire Sermon. Fourth part is Death by Water. Fifth part is What the Thunder Said. So if you come to the analysis, go to page number 11 and 12, you can find it. If you come to the analysis part, poem analysis, I have highlighted in the red mark. I have given it a red mark. What are the 5 parts of the poem? The Westland is a bigger poem. And this bigger poem is fragmented, made into pieces, section-wise. In the first section, that is The Burial of the Dead. Second section is A Game of Chess. Third section is The Fire Sermon. Fourth section is Death by Water. Fifth section is What the Thunder Said. In your syllabus, you will find the 3 sections, 1, 2, 3. So why the title is given The Westland? Why? Why the title is given The Westland? So this poem is composed after the Second World War. The Second World War, 1939 to 1945. After the Second World War, the poet observed that the whole world is devastated and destroyed. The whole world is destroyed. So people are not getting food to eat everywhere. So you know that Hiroshima and Nagasaki, two cities have been devastated by the bomb explosion. So entire North Europe is devastated, is involved with the war and is completely devastated. So after the World War II, the whole is destroyed. People are not getting food and nothing is there. The people are almost disappointed and desperate and hopeless condition. In that state of mind, the poet wrote this poem. That is why the title of the poem, The Wasteland. When the land is wasted, the land is destroyed, the land is devastated. And then the opening section, now you come to the opening section. The opening section entitled The Burial of the Dead refers to the burial of the fertility of God. It develops the death theme for God and man and relates to fear of it to sex. Ironically, the poem begins with the life-giving rain, which is longed for a part life. So there is no fertility. So there is no growth and development because the whole world is destroyed. Even the land has lost the power of growing the crops. The human beings are afraid, and the entire scenario, entire world is devastated. Even in the season of growing the crops, the land is not producing the crops. And the poem opens with the line, April is the cruelest month, breeding lilacs out of the dead land, mixing memory and desire, stirring dull roots with spring rain. Winter kept us warm, covering earth's forgetful soul, feeding a little life with dried tubers. Summer surprised us. That is why the Wasteland 1 to 8, the poem begins with these lines. So at least you will quote first 4 lines. When you write the long answer, at least you write first 4 lines. So April is the cruelest. Generally, in the month of April in England, the land cultivates, after the cultivation of land, the land produces the crops. But this time, this is not a producing of the crops, rather it is a devastated time. So this is the way the poet starts, and the above line speaks eloquently of cyclic nature. There is a reveal and a renewal of life. So in the second stanza, so in the second part, the second part title is A Game of Chess. The game of chess suggests a negation of romantic love. That means for Westlanders, marriage means a chessboard. Just imagine, marriage is just a chessboard. A mere device for the gratification of sensual appetite. What do we mean by marriage? Marriage means sensual appetite. Sex has become a part of life, and the superficial pursuit of pleasure, a pleasure that has resulted in an unbearable boredom. The game of chess becomes the symbol of the empty life when the mind is exercised on petty consideration and the eyes are fixed languidly and helplessly on the move and counter move of the game. Intellectual and as well as sexual, and the weary heart waits for some violence which may knock this life to piece of death itself, which may put an end to this dull and aimless existence. The chess game also symbolizes the prolonged ideas of seduction. So all of you have played the chess game, you know, the two people are playing the chess. There is a board and one is a black color, another is a white color. They're playing. Each moment they're looking at each other. There is a game, that mind game. Each one try to defeat the other. You have seen. And most of the time the match comes to a draw, end with a draw. So this chessboard is a marital life. And white and black, they represent to a man and to a woman. So they say that the marital life is not successful in the modern age. Why? Because the marriage is not at all concerned with the social pleasure, not concerned with the moral views, not in the moral principle. It is the way just only to seduce, or you say that sexual pleasure for the both of the parties. When this party is over, then they are misunderstanding starts and they are not united at all. So that is why this second part is elaborated in this manner. You have to go through the text very carefully because it is a long poem. So now you come to the third section. The third section is the fire sermon. The third section, fire sermon, was preached by Buddha, Lord Buddha. against the fires of passion, hatred, and infatuation. In this section, Eliot shows that water in the modern wasteland is a negative element, a river of lust. Water has lost its proper efficacy. It has become malignant. The section begins with an autumn scene and exposes the contamination of the river Thames. So here there is a river Thames river. That river water is completely polluted. Similarly, Lord Buddha said that the life of the human being is completely polluted. Lord Buddha, you know that, the great philosopher, the great person who has established the Buddhist religion in the world, and he is compared in this way. So now you come to the fourth section, which is not in the syllabus. Till then, you have to know about what are the two rest parts. The fourth section, death by water, brings the Phoenician sailor and the ultimate consequence of the last theme of the fire. In this part, the emphasis is on the death and not on the hope for rebirth into a new life. Flavels parodizes the resurrection of the fertility of God as he moves back in time through the stages of his age and youth. It deals with real death that everyone death by water means that suppose there is a great person or richest person who is going through the sea or the ocean, you know, in the old time they are doing the business. And most on either sea or the boat, they are drowned and they lost their life. So after the loss of their life, people are disappointed. There nobody expect that the life will come back. So we say that, but nowadays we say, if somebody is died, the soul, the spirit is there. So that is the description of the analytical definition, death by water. So in the fifth standard, which is very interesting standard, fifth is very philosophical ideas are given in the philosophical line. So this standard is this part is very important. The fifth section, what the thunder said, is the essence of the whole poem. It shows the way of release from a spiritual barrenness of the lustful world. So when the world is devastated and everybody is looking for sensual pleasure, sexual pleasure, materialistic pleasure, at that time there is a need of the spiritualism. There is a need of the religious feeling. Otherwise, the whole world will be destroyed once again. So nowadays, you know that everybody is running after money. Everybody is running after materialistic world. Everybody is running after women for sexual pleasures. So this is not good. You should search after knowledge. We should search for religious spirit, spiritualism. That is the ideas given in this. The suffering described in the fire sermon in the world of the repentance, you go through this poem and now you come to the last paragraph, then you can understand. In what the thunder said, he suggests that man can save himself by choosing the path of data, dayadhama, and damyata. So in short, the poet said da, 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 D-A, D-A, D-A. There is a question comes, what does da, da, da stand for? Da means data, da means dayadhama, da means damyata. What does they refer? The first will make his soul noble and will fill it with the love of man, God. Damyata means self-control. Damyata means self-control of the mind, and the senses will enable him to conquer sensualism, unworthy love, and fraud, and love for the whole world. So data means donate. Dayada means show sympathy and kindness. Please wait, there is current failure. Right? So data means donate. Dayada means showing kindness and sympathy. And damyata means self-control. The world gives us three messages. Data, daya. You should show sympathy to others. Data, donate. You have to give, you have to donate something to the world. Daya dhamma means you should show your sympathy and kindness to the world. Damyata means self-control. You have to control yourself. You should not be over-explored, over-excited towards the materialist world, towards the monetary world, towards the grabbing the property, towards the sensual pleasure, towards the sexual pleasure. It should not so much excited. Right? As the poet say, da, 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 data, dayadhama, damyata. Self-control Control is the most important part of your life. You have to control yourself. You have to control your anger. You should control your love. You should control your spirit of grabbing things. You have to control yourself. Self, just like that, when you drive a vehicle, there is a brake. So when you use the brake, everything is stopped. So similarly, the mind is controlled. You have to make a self-control there. So in this way, the poem is described. The Westland poem is described, but the time is going to over. I have given a Dylan Thomas poem, that is the postmodernist poem. One poem is given, and the description is also there. 1 stanza, 2 stanza, 3 stanza, theme is also given. So as the time is not permitting, I am not able to discuss more points. I hope all of you understood this session. So today my session is over. I am very much thankful to you. I am also obliged to you that you have attended my classes and you have given your whole support and cooperation to me. I am really thankful to you. That's all. You may